Why do you keep attracting the same toxic relationship patterns over and over again? You're about to discover the real reason you feel powerless in your relationships. But here's what's shocking. It has nothing to do with the other person. And by the end of this, you'll know the exact 3-step system I used to completely flip the script and regain control in every relationship in my life. But first, let me tell you about the moment I realized I was doing everything wrong. I was sitting in my car after another exhausting argument with someone I cared about, feeling completely drained and defeated. I had bent over backwards, compromised on everything that mattered to me, and somehow I was still the bad guy. That's when it hit me. I wasn't losing control in my relationships by accident. I was giving it away on purpose, and I had no idea why. Here's the thing, nobody tells you about relationship control, and this is crucial to understand before we get to the solution. You think you're being loving when you constantly accommodate others, but you're actually training them to disrespect you. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you bite your tongue instead of speaking your truth, you're sending a clear message that your needs don't matter as much as theirs. But here's where it gets really twisted. And this is the part most people never figure out. The reason you do this isn't because you're naturally selfless or caring. There's actually a much darker psychological reason behind it. And once you understand this, everything will make sense. But first, I need you to understand how this pattern actually forms in the first place. It starts in childhood when you learn that your worth is tied to how well you can manage other people's emotions. Maybe you had a parent who was unpredictable, so you became hypervigilant about keeping them happy. Maybe you were praised for being the easy child who never caused problems. Either way, you learn that love is conditional on your ability to disappear your own needs. Now here's the dark truth I promised you, and this might be hard to hear. You don't actually want to be in healthy relationships. Your subconscious is actively seeking out people who will treat you poorly, because that's the only kind of love that feels familiar to you. When someone treats you well, it feels uncomfortable, foreign, even boring. You're literally addicted to the drama of trying to earn love from people who can't give it to you. But there's hope, and this is where the 3-step system comes in. However, each step is completely useless without the others. If you only do step 1, you'll actually make your relationships worse. If you skip to step 3 without mastering step 2, you'll sabotage everything. You need all 3 parts to make this work, and they have to be done in the exact right order. Step 1 is recognizing your control addiction. You think you're powerless in relationships, but actually, you're trying to control everything. You're trying to control how others see you, how they react to you, what they think of you. You're managing your behavior constantly to get specific responses from them. But here's the twist. This desperate attempt to control others is exactly what makes you powerless. Now, step 1 is important, but it's completely worthless if you don't understand step 2, because recognizing the problem isn't enough. You need to understand why you developed this pattern in the first place, and more importantly, what it's costing you right now. The real cost isn't just the relationships you're ruining. There's something much deeper happening that's destroying your entire life. Step 2 is understanding the hidden cost of people-pleasing. Every time you abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you're not just hurting that relationship. You're actually rewiring your brain to believe that your authentic self is unlovable. You're creating a deeper and deeper disconnection from who you really are. Over time, this leads to anxiety, depression, and a complete loss of identity. But here's what's really devastating about this cost, and why step 2 is so crucial to understand fully. When you consistently prioritize others' comfort over your own authenticity, you start attracting people who are specifically drawn to your lack of boundaries. You become a magnet for narcissists, users, and emotionally unavailable people because they can sense that you won't hold them accountable. However, understanding the cost is still completely useless without step 3, because awareness without action is just sophisticated self-torture. You can understand your patterns perfectly and still remain trapped in them forever. Step 3 is where everything changes, but it requires something most people aren't willing to do. Step 3 is the complete identity shift. You have to stop seeing yourself as someone who needs to earn love and start seeing yourself as someone who deserves it automatically. This isn't about affirmations or positive thinking. This is about fundamentally changing how you show up in every interaction. But here's the part of step 3 that most people miss, and why it won't work without the foundation of steps 1 and 2. You have to be willing to lose relationships that are built on your willingness to disappear. When you start showing up authentically, some people will not like it. They'll try to guilt you back into your old patterns. They might even leave. And this is where most people give up and go back to people-pleasing. They can't handle the temporary discomfort of people being upset with them. But here's what you need to understand. Their discomfort with your authenticity is not your problem to solve. Their resistance to your growth is actually confirmation that you're on the right track. The people who truly care about you will adjust to your new boundaries. They might be confused at first, but they'll respect your growth. The people who can't handle your authenticity were never really in relationship with you anyway. They were in relationship with your willingness to be who they needed you to be. Now, here's the most important part of this entire system and why all three steps must work together. When you stop trying to control others and start honoring yourself, something magical happens. You naturally start attracting people who are capable of real intimacy, people who want to know who you actually are, not just what you can do for them. But the transformation doesn't stop there. When you're no longer walking on eggshells in your relationships, you have energy for the things that actually matter to you. Your creativity returns. Your confidence grows. You start pursuing goals you abandoned because you were too busy managing everyone else's emotions. The irony is that by giving up control, you actually gain it. By focusing on the only thing you can actually control, your own responses and choices, you become infinitely more powerful in every relationship. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop being desperate and start being selective. Remember, each step builds on the others. Recognition without understanding the cost leads to intellectual awareness without change. Understanding the cost without identity shift leads to awareness without action. But when all three work together, you become someone who naturally commands respect while still being loving and kind. Your relationships will never be the same. Some will deepen beyond what you thought possible. Others will fade away, making room for connections that actually nourish your soul. Either way, you win, because you'll finally be living as your authentic self in relationships that honor who you really are.